here I'm doing the second leading lesson. The first part, lesson A, is steering and leading backwards, which I'm going to do right now. So I have my lunge whip and I have my driving whip, and I'm just going to have them make like a V in front of the horse as I back up to draw her into me, and then those whips are going to steer her right and left. So this lesson is like preparatory if you're going to like teach your horse just how to steer, because the whips do help once you start under saddle stuff, or if you want to steer bridleless or start your horse bridleless, all these help, and then you have more ground control. But I like to do this. It also teaches your horse more shoulder control. So I decided to take the halter off because you can do it with a halter, but she's pretty chill with it, and it's just another thing you kind of have to hold on to. If you're not comfortable taking off the halter, you don't have to. You can totally leave it on and hold it in one of your hands with one of your whips. But it's just a little bit easier. If your horse doesn't know this and just has a tendency to want to leave you, even in the round pen, just leave the halter on. But I like this as a precursor to the moving the shoulders exercise, as well as the lunging lesson. It just gets the shoulders moving. Lots of horses are either resistant or afraid to move their shoulders, so this starts it off. So I'm just gonna yield her hindquarters here, and I'm gonna try and block her nose. So it helps if you have your longer whip on the outside. Sometimes you can't always have that. If you want two lunge whips, that works too. But I'm just gonna back up and kind of go toward her hip to draw her toward me. And then these, each side, see right there, I lifted it up toward her cheek and she went off to the left, and I clucked as soon as she moved away from that pressure of my whip. So I want her to understand that I'm trying to steer her. By going backwards, your horse is more likely to draw into you, so then you can see what's going on, and it just gives you a different vantage point than you leading from walking ahead. You can really see what's going on. So there, I like lifted up my left whip and shook it a little bit, and she moved away from it, so I clucked, and I'm gonna give her a treat for that. So she's moved both left and right, so she's kind of got that under control. So I'm gonna have her back up, or I'm gonna back up more, and she's gonna come toward me a bit more, and I'm gonna build up the amount of steps she can take. So she's pretty good at this, and I'm just gonna back up and lift my whip. So I'm using that long white lunge whip to kind of push on her hindquarters, and I'm lifting up on my black driving whip. See there, I'm pushing the hindquarters, using that driving whip to kind of push her face over. And then there she moved away from it, and she was resisting a bit. She had her head up, but then she stopped resisting and went away from it. So that's when I clicked and rewarded her for it. She's on the end of my driving whip, so I'm just having her step back. So I just raise the whips up when I steer, and then they're back down, and then I back up to draw her into me. So that was really good draw and steer, so I collect that. If your horse doesn't have as much draw as she does, I would take a step back. You might have to back all the way across the round pen, but as soon as they take a step towards you, click and then go give them a reward. But I'm just doing little arcs to have her follow me. The sharper the turn of the arc, the more likely they're gonna follow you and steer easily. If you're way far away, you're not gonna be able to reinforce that with your whips. I'll just give her a second here and draw away from her. And then you always wanna go to the hip there to make sure that you can get that yielded, and that really unsticks their feet and gets them drawing into you, just as you did in the round pen lesson. So it's always a balance between driving that hip and drawing them forward. So here I'm drawing her back toward me, do a sharp turn, raise that lunge whip, and then do another sharp turn. So she's really following me, really listening. That's very nice. So give her a treat for that. Just give her a little break here. So she's doing really good at that. Like, she's got it down. I don't need to drill this. I mean, she's not going to be like a Liberty horse and don't really do like performances or anything like that. So I'm going to move on to the second lesson and just have her lead next to me, which she's also pretty good at. But I just want to do a small little turn here to get her like sticking with me. Nice little inside turn gets them sticking with me. So I clicked to her there because she was moving out of my space and yet still following me. And I like where her head is. She's not way in front of me. You can always block with your whips and kind of just block there and create some energy up there to back them up. So she was following and stopped when I stopped, so I rewarded her. So you always have to do the first leading lesson, so you have control, or you might need to keep the halter on for that, but she's listening really well. And I don't need to drill this lesson because I practice it on the halter just around the barn. Very nice. So she's leading, she's going when I go, she's following me when I turn, and she's backing when I back, so I don't need to do a ton of that. There I'm going to do a little outside turn. That's your toughest one usually, and she did excellent with that. Usually they just kind of stay there. When you do that inside turn, they follow you more because you're kind of pushing on them. So she did a great job, so I'm just going to end her after that really good outside turn.